Wow, a quorum at 5:37 p.m. 17:37 on my 24-hour clock, which I kind of like, but a lot of people don't, I guess. The Underhill Energy Committee meeting has been called to order. Our first order of business. Graham has said he will be willing to be note taker, so maybe we'll give him a minute to sort of catch up and get squared away on that part of it.
All right, let's see here. Meetings, agenda.
Got my cup of tea to get me through.
Okay. What kind of tea are you drinking?
Oh, just red rose.
Okay.
Nothing too elaborate. Just kind of a cup of tea. It's hot and tea.
All right, let's roll.
All right. So Graham is the note taker. So that's first item has been taken care of. Next item on our agenda is, let's see, any adjustments to the agenda? Anybody want to make any adjustments to what I sent out? I assume that all of you did, in fact, get that. Both when I sent out the question, does this sound like what you want? And B, when I sent it out with the link. So did everyone got that right? So that
Yep, got it.
Okay, great. So at least that got through. So any adjustments to all of that? Suggestions? Hearing none, we'll move on. I guess the next thing on the agenda is a public comment period. We're lucky to have the committee here. I don't seeing no public. I guess we can safely just jump over that one. Next item on the agenda, review and approve minutes from December. We have not reviewed and approved those. I don't know if anyone has had an opportunity to look at any of that. And can I get a motion to get the whole thing on the table?
Yeah, I move to approve the December minutes.
Okay. Probably we should have a second. People seem to be doing seconds these days. Do I have a second?
I'll second the approval of December 11th.
Okay, great. So Graham is seconded. So any discussion on the minutes from December? Or modifications or changes? Give everybody a chance to just sort of glance over whatever they want to glance at. So, hearing none, I guess I'll call a vote. All in favor of adopting the minutes as posted, please say aye or raise their hand. Any opposed? Aye. Hearing none, the motion carries and the minutes are adopted as posted. Let's see what's coming up next. Next, I would like to, let's see, program status review. There's a couple of things on here. One is the weatherization program. Neither Dwight nor John are here at the moment, so I don't think we can get a lot of an update on that. It's about the last thing we have actually running. Hopefully I can talk a little bit about that with you guys before we get done. I did want to mention the Jericho Energy Task Force. We provided the wherewithal to show the video common ground based on renewable or regenerative agriculture as a means of addressing climate and a whole bunch of other things as well down at DRML. It was actually pretty well attended. We had the Jericho people were able to corral one of the people who had actually been involved in producing the film to be there to introduce it and give a little bit of information about it. So it was an even richer experience. I got a lot out of it. It seemed to be pretty well received. I got a lot out of it, and this is like the third time I've seen it. So If anybody wants to see it again or there's any interest, it lives on my computer these days. And, we can set up screenings and arrangements for it whenever and however we want. So, we could do it for our little group or whatever we want to do. So, any questions or discussion about any of that?
That's great. It was well attended. How many people about do you think showed up?
I think that I think it was 20 something, 20 something range, and that was one of the semi-blizzardy nights. So it was, it was definitely a good showing, I think, given what we were dealing with. We've had quite a few of those over the past month or so. So Jericho probably knows exactly how many. I had to be sort of pointed forward to do the projectionist control, so I was only kind of picking up on the vibe, not actually doing any counting or anything. So okay, yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say my only comment. I think in that regard, and as we sort of, I think later on here, but hope to sort of start discussion on sort of what the energy committee's sort of role is. I think that's those types of movie screenings and things like that would be a good opportunity for you know engagement with the community. That seems really like low workload to get something like that kind of organized. You
Low overhead.
use the film or the speaker even, and get the venue library, for instance, and just get the word out. So anyway,
Yeah, I agree, Graham. I think it's a minimal effort with some pretty good results. Sounds like, at least.
Okay, well, so I like the general thought, at least as far as it goes. So let's go with it. That said, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item, talking about our program. This is where I want to pick up a bunch of this stuff. I thought I would introduce the solar program, which at the moment, as a practical matter, appears to be largely defunct. The two initiatives we had undertaken both kind of unraveled in the process of it all. The effort to put together a solar farming program and engage landowners in larger scale solar farm installations somewhere, even in light of our new three-phase power arrangement coming up River Road. Really, there was no interest and nothing that got picked up on that. Steve worked on that quite a bit, put together a couple of informational sessions and contacted a number of people, and including potential vendors, and we didn't really get anywhere. So that was the initiative we had going in that front. We also had the town hall, quote unquote, town hall solar installation we were looking at, and finally, kind of Christmas week, mostly Steve, but Steve and I were kind of scrambling as fast as we could to try to get something to work on that. And Steve finally worked through all of the information that he could pull together on our off taker, or whatever the official term is. And we basically had saturated our off-taking capacity with the Beartown array. So we would have to offload Beartown array with the hope that the select board would go with something with this other alternative arrangement. And that seemed like a very bad bet for the town and for our initiative. So Steve and I recommended that effort be pulled. I will say there seemed to be a considerable amount of backpedaling on the part of the select board. They broke out our solar project and wanted to offer it to the town meeting as a separate budget item, not within the town budget, which would be a really good opportunity for killing it. It's it's kind of a setup for that sort of thing. So, but nonetheless, that's where it was, and it was already showing a lot of cracks and weaknesses. So Steve and I kind of when we realized there was no off taker, we basically said we need to pull the plug on this, and did. So we're no longer pursuing that. And as it turns out, based on that, it probably was not a good idea from the start. When we were talking about installing the PV at Town Hall, whether it was ground mount or roof mount or anything else, there would still have not been any off taker. So I'm not quite sure how we got down that road, but we did, and we struggled, I'll say manfully, to get it in place, and it didn't get in place. So we no longer have that going either. So as of right now, our two solar initiatives are not not real. They're basically defunct. And so I would like for us to, as part of our larger discussion, begin talking and thinking about what, if anything, we want to do in that regard as we go. So I'll defer any discussion along those lines, but if anybody has any questions or comments or discussion at this point, please speak up.
I'll just say, Michael, that once the Moore Park Pavilion is, if and when that gets settled and decided, that might give us some guidance on how we could approach the Moore Park solar array at some point. So hopefully there's still some light at the end of the tunnel here.
It's possible, and I think that one of the big one of my big disappointments in this is that, as I understand the Moore Park Pavilion, it will not be well designed for things like changing and sheltering and picnicking. It'll be kind of more of a performance and monumental, if you will, arrangement. I could be wrong, but that's what it sounds like, the direction that things are going. And so we lose that piece of this puzzle. The one thing I will say is, without an off taker, I'm not sure what to do with it as a solar installation. I don't know if any of you have noticed, but on River Road, there appears to be a Suncommon solar canopy at around number 209, sitting in the field right next to the house. So I don't know. It looks like the exact one that we had been talking about for our installation. So maybe we can just tell everybody, go look there. It doesn't obviously, sign the town on and give the town imprimatur to the initiative, but it seems like we're going to need to be, think that through a good deal more at this point. So Ravi has cloned himself. Back to one, Ravi. Any further discussion on this one? Hey, look, he's gotten somewhere, and there's a real person behind it all. I'm glad he's safe and warm and not trying to steer his way through traffic while dealing with all this. So. Any further questions or discussion on this one? Okay, hearing none, let's move on. What comes up next? The information and outreach piece. That we do have the town meeting table coming up, and I don't know if anyone else might be able to join me there. I'm planning to be there as much as necessary, certainly through town meeting. I don't know whether I'll stay all the way to the end of voting, but nonetheless, through town meeting, I'm willing to staff the table during that time. I'm not totally sure what we plan to do with it, but again, the presence, the display. I'm pretty sure I can dig out some of those bulbs and everything that Robbie found for us once before, and hopefully not too many people will decide they're free samples to take away this time. But just make a presence and maybe get some interest going, and maybe even generate some interest in filling the remaining slot on our group. Any comments or thoughts?
What's the date of town meeting day, Michael?
I think it's the 3rd, isn't it? The first Tuesday in March, I think. Let me see. Nope. No, that's February. Oh, February would be the same, so it looks like it's the 4th.
Okay.
Also happens to be Mardi Gras as well. It says here.
It'd be nice if we have a date for this event, whether that's May or September. I think we're targeting May. I think we'll talk about that in a second here. But if we have that date locked down, that could be something we could have ready for town meeting day.
That's true. If we've got that locked down at the moment, I don't know that we do. But okay, so that said, anybody that can show up, that's great. So I'd like to talk about the event e-fair. Before we did it as just we've been doing it as an EV kind of demo, but we've been talking about expanding it to have e-fair qualities about it. I know Dwight was going to be working on this a bit, so I'm a little wary about proceeding too far down this road without him engaged. But nonetheless, I'm certainly open to discussing it. And we'd also talked about seeing if we could get it located at the park instead of the school this time. I don't know whether that we're still interested in doing that. I can pursue it if we are. So I will open the floor to discussion on our event, e-fair.
Yeah, I think Graham had proposed May as being a more appropriate time, just with mowing season and spring and all that stuff. I think it condenses the planning period, obviously, but I think it does seem like it's a good target date or month at the moment.
Especially if we went with like late May or maybe even early June. Does that make sense? That buys us something.
Yeah, I would say as late in May, because weather can be iffy, right? But if we do Moore Park, which I think is a good idea,
I was thinking about down by the farmers market, the other park.
Mills Riverside.
Mills River Park, yeah.
Oh, I got you. Okay. I just worry about weather. If it's a rainy day, that would be nice to have some sort of indoor venue, either the town hall or Deborah Rawson.
True. Which we can get. Now, I don't know how that would dovetail with the school. Should I see about coordinating this with Jericho, because they've done it with us before and also been our go-between with the school, and see what we can set up? And do we have an actual group designated to be doing this? I kind of thought we sort of did, but I don't know who's on it.
Yeah, me, Graham, Dwight, and John.
So that's a quorum of us. So kind of everybody except me and Jerry. Jerry, how do we get out of this?
You're on your own.
Hey, I can hear him. Well, that sounds great. I'm willing if you would like to. If you guys would like to, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robbie.
I was going to say, I think bringing in Jericho's a good idea. I think I would personally rather wait till we have a date, a venue, and kind of how we want to approach this thing, so we can kind of, I don't know, I get territorial at times. So I think if we have that in place, we can kind of drive this thing versus Jericho stepping in and taking over.
Uh-huh. Well, so far they haven't done that. We've kind of driven, but it would be easy to lose that. Well, do you guys want to set up a meeting? I think we will need to warn it if we're going to have like a meeting just about this. Just because we've got it seems kind of crazy because it's not exactly like we can commit the town to anything.
Was John? I don't recall if John was officially on there. I feel like we maybe were, but realized there was a quorum. But anyway, yeah, I think one way or the other, there's been sort of intermittent correspondence among at least Robbie and Dwight and myself, and we kind of just need to get firm up a date. Really, is like date, location, and so we can get the word out to GMP, etc. So,
yeah, and we had talked about having things. I mean, we're talking about now the Mo Electric and doing a lot more with that if we're doing it in the earlier time. But also more maybe even some vendors for solar PV, maybe even some vendors for heat pumps and weatherization. Dwight should be good for pulling some of those kind of pieces in. It doesn't have to it just doesn't have to be a big huge deal. But we'd also talked about things like food and music. Food is a big attractor for anything that happens. So I think that makes sense to do something with that. So can we leave that in you guys' court to pick something up and run with it?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, Robbie, we'll kind of be in touch and get. I mean, I think if we can avoid having to warn anything here, at least at the early part of it, that will help to expedite.
Yeah, I think that makes. I was going to say I could drop by, but I can't. So you guys are on your own. But if you've got an extra slot or something like that sometime, or we want to have a meeting more or less devoted to this, I'm game, and I'll warn it and get it out. And
I think
warning it's not that big a deal, but
I think we can push this forward via email, don't you, Graham, and get it done that way.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Michael and Jerry and Graham, for that matter. I mean, what do you guys think if we did do Moore Park and Town Hall? You think that would be a good venue, or do you think it would be more appropriate, more centralized towards Browns River Middle School?
I'm wondering about. I mean, the number of EVs we've had wouldn't really fit at Moore Park.
Oh, right. Good point.
Now we could do it, like less like a EV rodeo, but we still have to have room to set up, the tents and exhibits and stuff like that. I feel like we might be a little space constrained there. I like it in a lot of ways, but I feel like we're getting a little space constrained there. Whereas either BRMS and the library or Mills River seems to make a lot of sense for doing the other.
And you said, Michael, that Jericho Energy Task Force has typically contacted Browns River Middle School to coordinate.
Yes, they have.
Okay.
And there's also the elementary school there with the sort of adjoining gym. Both of those buildings have like their gymnasium sort of, or at least the cafeteria, whatever is the elementary school, are sort of adjoining the parking lot areas, and so that could be plan B if the weather is not looking good. To host vendors in there, and EVs could still be nearby outside, stuff like that. So
yeah, something like that could work.
Love to have it. Say it's actually taking place in Underhill, but we might just have to. That'll be what it is.
Yeah, well, I mean that whole area is kind of it's Underhill Flats.
It's basic, yeah.
In Underhill Flats, come and see us.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we pretty good on that one? I think that sounds good to me. So we'll leave that in you guys' court, and you can loop us in on the emails, I guess. I mean, just sort of CC us or something. But if we have to get together for an official decision or something like that, warning it is not that big a deal. Just we'll be in touch and set something up. So that said, I'd like to move on to our directions discussion. And what I was kind of hoping tonight is less, although I'm certainly open to any ideas that people have, but less specifically what, less substantive and more procedural. That is, should we try to get together in some kind of a call it a retreat? I mean, that's what some organizations do or whatever when they get together and try to work through what are we really all about? What are our programs now? I think that we've got enough stuff that kind of hasn't panned out and we're casting about, and I'd really like to work that through and think through how we'd be able to do something worthwhile with this committee in this town. And some of it may be tying in with other towns more. I know, for example, we were just talking about stuff like Common Ground, and I mean the Food Hub has already been very active and basically getting a lot of stuff going, and they're already a specifically two-town operation. Now they are not operating under the auspices of any select board or anything. They're just a group of people who have gotten together to do something. But that nonetheless, we've already got this two-town operation going. Jericho has an energy task force. Transition Town is doing a lot of things that I think could bear on what we're doing. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on out there, and we may want to think more about corralling and coordinating with some of it than we have been heretofore. But I get Ravi's worry about losing the initiative but nonetheless, there's a lot going on, and Jericho adds a level of resources that we don't currently have. So I'm open for thoughts. How should we proceed?
I will say I think between the weatherization program and this e-fair, that should really keep us pretty busy. I just think, speaking for myself with kids at home, it's tough to really go above and beyond what we're already doing. I know we'd love to do more, and the solar thing kind of fell flat on its face, but I don't think it's all for naught. I think we are slowly, and maybe not as quickly as we might like, but we are making some sort of progress.
Well, one thing that I think that I was hearing from, I'm not sure who was saying it at the moment, might have been Graham or Ravi, back when Jerry couldn't say anything at all. I mean, maybe he was saying it, but we weren't able to hear it. Was working more on this educational. I mean, the e-fair, if you will, is kind of in that piece, and putting together, getting the information out, maybe trying to compile even lists of vendors, and making sure that just showing, having guests in or something like that. I mean, it's one thing that we can do, especially, I mean, like 98% of energy use in Underhill is private people doing whatever they do. And if we want to affect energy use in Underhill, we're going to have to deal with that somehow. And since we don't have, despite representations at the highest level to the contrary, We do not have dictatorial powers over our population and aren't trying to run a Fidel Castro operation here. The only tools we have, I think, are education and information and publicizing it and getting this stuff out. I mean, basically, it's what kind of vehicles people drive, how far people drive, whether they use public transportation, whether they insulate their own homes, whether they add heat pumps, whether they install PV or find some way to install storage. All of that is totally private. And so we need to find, I think, if we're going to do anything in Underhill, we need to find ways to affect that.
I know Dwight had sent around an email regarding Veep, who I know we've spoken to in the past. They are doing community workshops. I don't know if that's maybe an avenue worth pursuing, but they're promoting conversations, kind of reading verbatim here, about weatherization and electrification in Vermont towns. And so we could, if we lean on organizations like that, who already have all the stuff in place to make an impact like that, all we need to do is kind of pick a date and get them in a venue.
I mean, it sounds like a strategy, and I think possibly a good one. I wish we had, more of our committee here, and including the possibility of completely fleshing it out. But I mean, maybe we don't need to have a special, just sort of keep this up at our next meeting in March, which will be with daylight back to daylight savings time, right? So everybody will be being up later or something like that. But and just sort of continue the discussion, but really kind of flesh this out. Ask people to bring their thoughts and ideas to that meeting. One thing I'd like to ask about is is it worthwhile having either, say, March or April, just a face-to-face meeting, just so we can, when we're not fighting a blizzard in order to do it and that sort of thing, and we can set the time and schedule so that it's convenient for people, and do it at town hall or do it at the library if we like, whatever, and have a meeting and just sort of chat about some of this stuff and how to make it work. Does that make sense?
I like that idea. I'm happy to. Yeah,
convince myself that you guys are all really real.
Yeah, I think a face-to-face would be good. I'd probably say April. That can give us March to kind of rally John and Dwight.
Yes, there you go. But by April, we may have Dwight. We may have lost Dwight to umpiring.
Right.
We'll see. We'll see what's going on. I'll put it out. And again, I can put that out in an email. Graham, put me down for putting out an email to see about orchestrating this whole thing and when we might be able to get everyone together. And I'll include some of the substance of what we talked about. Sort of shifting more to an educational kind of strategy, because I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, basically, energy use in Underhill is what we all do as individuals on an individual basis. It's not like the town has big, opportunities for either generation or joint community savings or that sort of thing. If someone really wanted to, I suppose we could endeavor to put together some sort of a CSA arrangement, but that's a huge undertaking, and I don't feel like I really have time for that. So I don't know, but that's the only other thing I could think might have some potential.
I can reach out to the folks at Veep, see if I can get some more information about these.
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Really try to look into where we can sort of lean on and leverage stuff that's already sort of been developed and kind of is there, is maybe a really good sort of place to start at least, and we can start to feel a little more active maybe within the town.
I'm game, and like the food hub people, they put together that whole dinner with the farmers and so on and so forth. I think they've said they had 300 people there. Not a bad showing. It's like I had something else going that night, so I couldn't make it. In fact, I think it might have been this meeting, but I don't know. Yeah, in fact, I think it was. I came to this meeting, and that's the one where we didn't have the quorum, but I didn't go to that. I didn't go to, and effectively, I didn't go to this either. But nonetheless, we're doing it. Yeah, I'm definitely. It seems like a strategy to me. We need to talk about it anymore. I'd like to, in our face-to-face meeting again, my inclination, and I would run it by you guys. We have been including our emeriti members, Peter and Steve, even in general for the invitations. But I'd like to reach out in particular because I know both of them have a lot of ideas and thoughts about and experience in all of this, and so I guess I'd see what people think about that.
Yeah, well, I think the more the merrier. Members, certainly the history within the committee and town as a whole, a lot to offer if they can have the time to meet.
Jerry, what about you? You have any thoughts? I know we can hear you now.
Not really.
Okay.
I'll think in a minute.
Yep. Well, obviously, keep us posted on all that. I'm going to proceed on this basis then. We'll let you guys do the EV fair or the e-fair or whatever it is that we're doing and pull something together on that. I'll put something out about our, continuing efforts to put together a meaningful program with the resources that we have and also the circumstances that we have seem to really kind of say, a lot of outreach and education. And I know Jericho has done that in the past, and it would be good in some ways perhaps to coordinate with them because they get people come in and they have contacts for some people to come in, so we could definitely do something with that if we're of a mind to. So, okay, I'm okay on all of this, so I guess I'm ready to move on, unless we want to talk about it anymore. Okay, that said, let's see. Do I have anything going on this? So the only other thing here that I might have. Oh yes, I did put under the members' new business. I did submit an annual report. I hope I didn't say anything that stepped on any toes. I did send it around kind of on shortish notice, but it's part of our report. So just built on what we had done and tried to report on kind of the things that we had done. It's kind of 2 or 3 months old now, so I don't even remember what I said, but hopefully nobody read it and said, "Oh my God, he said that." So I don't know if anybody has any comments or thoughts on any of that. And I'd like to add, if anybody has any thoughts at all about where we could find an extra member, to fill it out, it makes quorum call a little bit easier too. We've got more to pick from because even with only 6 members, our quorum is still 4. So and we've only got 6 to pick from as opposed to 7. So it makes it a little easier on folks who sometimes have other things going on. So that said, I've got nothing else. I'm for next agenda items are primarily more on this program development. By then we will have had town meeting and we can report if anything happened there. My guess is nothing earth shattering, but hopefully some folks will at least stop by. And we have nothing since we don't have anything actually up within town meeting budget. So since we are no longer doing the town hall PV, so it shouldn't be too momentous. But anything else we should be thinking about next time? The EV fair, obviously, or the E-fair. I guess we'll go with E-fair and this out what our program is going to look like. Maybe Dwight and or John can bring us up to date a little bit on where things stand with the weatherization. Okay, that said, I've got nothing else. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about?
Hey, Ravi.
Yes, sir.
LG's terrible. A lot of dust, a lot of ashes. Worse than Vermont Pellets ever dreamed of being.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. A lot of ashes, a lot of dust.
We're talking about pellets for Michael and Graham.
I was wondering what was going on here in the background. That's all right.
It's rabbit food.
Rabbit food? Oh God, not rabbit
Yeah.
food. I think I'll go have some rabbit food myself. Okay. If there's nothing else, everybody can go to an early dinner if they'd like. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Second. Graham does it. Okay, that's non-debatable. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Yo.
Any opposed? Hearing none. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for showing up and carrying the torch.